Okay, it shows we're live. So hello YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics, and we're coming at you with a No Faces comic chat. We started off today. We're going to be the bombastic, yeah. And we are going to start off today with a bombastic bagman is what we're going to be called today. For now. I guess going forward will be No Faces chat, but then we'll also have the bombastic bagman, or we'll change the name out as we see fit from time to time. So everybody introduce yourself. BUB'S Comics here, and who else we got out there? It looks like Donnie next.
Yeah, got Tom the Doctor here. Hey, how are you everybody doing?
Nice. And we got DS Comics.
What's up, man? Yes, here. Good to be here.
And we got Metaraj.
Greetings, everyone. And I brought the Louisville Slugger.
Yeah! Woohoo! Nice. I was worried about you there, Roger, when you had like some kind of small little wimpy stick out there in one of your videos, and I thought maybe some bad luck had befell the slugger.
No, it just got temporarily misplaced in the miasma of my, office / storage room.
Well, you get 10 points for the first use of miasma for the day, but it has been a slow day.
Fabulous. I'll take it at this point.
Yeah. I'm showing my Tomb of Dracula just because it's when I had got my 180, I couldn't help but stare at it constantly. And now... And I got my 181, but I actually stared at my 180 more because it was the first kind of expensive comic that I ever had, and it was a gift from my wife, and I just stared at it constantly. I got the 181. I look at it pretty well now, and this is the first comic that I've bought for myself that I can't stop looking at. So I thought I'd put that up.
Remember to look at your wife, too, there, Bub.
Oh, I can never forget that.
I see those cavewoman comics you show, and I'm like, sounds like Bub has got a great marriage.
Oh yeah, she when you go through the comics, the different comic book characters, the female comic book characters, there's so few women that have brown hair. Most of them are redheads. I don't know. I guess it looks better when you draw, right? Bright colors. So most of them are redheads and blondes or black. There's very few brown-haired comic book characters. So when I stumbled upon the Cave Woman comics, I said, wow, that actually looks like my wife. That's cool. So if you're going to have a naked drawing of a woman up in your comic room, it's a good idea that you look something like your wife.
Yeah, that's hey, I think we have, let's see, Gene Pauley's Peter and C. Woodard 19 in the chat.
Nice. Hey, what's going up, guys? Well, chances are they're going to request us to show our hands because we're faceless chat. So everybody wave. Hey. Good deal. So generally, when we have these, they're going to be people who only show their, their hands or comics, no faces in our general videos. So I will make a point to say that Donna Doctor's here as a special guest because as part of being on the show, you can't show your face tonight. So who knows what Donnie's wearing? We don't know if he's combed his hair to the left or the right. He could have like barbecue sauce all over his shirt. He's wearing his boxer shorts, and who knows where he's got that sonic screwdriver. But it doesn't matter tonight because he's showing us an awesome. Looks like a commission. Donnie, what do you got showing on this for?
Yeah, man, that's it's Blair Shed. He did this commission of the 12th Doctor. I got it. I didn't get it from him. I got it from an auction site. I can't remember it right now off the top of my head. It's Comic Link. That was it. Comic Link, their auction site. He had a couple different commissions, so I got that. He's an incredible Doctor Who sketch cover, and just I love it. So gotta show that off all the time.
Now I'm going to show my Doctor Who ignorance. My son is a big Doctor Who fan. Is that the 12th Doctor?
Right. Yeah, it's 12th Doctor. It's Peter Capaldi. He's absolutely my favorite. He's amazing. I just love his Scottish accent, his angry eyes, his expressions. He's an incredible Doctor.
I have to say that for me, my favorite Doctor is the 10th Doctor, and that's only because that's when they restarted the series up, right?
The Ninth Doctor is when they restarted.
Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. Yep. And he only got one season, right?
Right. Yeah. He was just on for a season, and then David Tennant took over for like 3 or 4 seasons. 4 seasons.
Yeah, and David Tennant's my son's favorite Doctor.
Nice. He's awesome.
He absolutely loves him. In fact, he loved him so much, which, he's younger, he's my son, but he loved him so much as a doctor that when he was aware, of course, how the doctors tend to change hands, and he was worried that it was going to be too traumatic for him to watch him change into the next Doctor. So he stopped watching the show like 2 or 3 episodes before the end of David Tennant's run, and hasn't watched it since. So that's the only Doctor for him, and he'd rather rewatch those episodes than watch any others.
David Tennant's last episodes are really heart-wrenching. They're really good, and yeah, the ending it pulls at your heart, especially the music that they play with his last scene. So yeah, it's a good thing you have to watch it.
That's rough. Did we lose DS Comics? I think we lost DS Comics. He'll be able to find us back again. He likes to say they get real low tech at DS Comics, so his phone might have died. I guess we'll find out later. Metaraj, what are you showing us today?
Well, I'm showing, as you can see, since we are the faceless group here, I'm showing Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. I have the complete set of this magazine, awesome series, by the way. With, of course, if you've seen my videos, Shang-Chi is my man. And Bub, I pulled this one out for you. An awesome Mike Zeck cover of Captain America Annual 8 with Wolverine just going to town on his shield there. And then since I thought we were discussing movies, I figured I'd pull out the Thanos face cover of Captain Marvel 28.
Nice. That's a nice selection. That Mike Zeck, I think it's Captain America Annual number 8. And I have one of those that I picked up in auction, and I'm going to be getting it signed by Mike Zeck, I think in November. It could be September. I think it's September. He's going to be in Cincinnati. And I'm going to get that same book signed. And then also I'm on the hunt for a real clean copy of Infinity War or Secret Wars number 1. So those are my two.
I got something to show you then, Bub. Hold on. Keep talking.
Well, DS, why don't you show us what you're showing us today instead of your what we assume is probably an Adonis type mug that you can only you have to hide it from the camera to stop the fan mail and the women and whatever else just charging to your door. So what are you showing us instead of your face?
All right. Well, I don't know. Let me know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I just changed things around. I switched everything over to the computer. So I'm just using a MacBook Pro for the first time. So yeah, what I'm showing here, this is issue of The Thing, Charlton Comics from 1954. And this is the first published cover by Steve Ditko. So I figured I'd show something in honor of him. I didn't do a video this week, so really proud to own this. This is a rare book, especially in this grade. And first published cover by Steve Ditko, so I'm happy to show that off. And I hope it's coming in well on the video. My lighting is substandard here.
Is that from 1953, DS?
1954.
Where is it from? 54, okay, because I know 53 was his first published work.
Yeah, actually, interesting story about Steve Ditko and his early work. He had his first professional work was for a comic book called Daring Love, and he did the work on that, and it wasn't published right away. And then he went ahead and did some work for a horror series called Fantastic Fears. I think it was issue 3 or 6, I can't remember. But the Fantastic Fears book was published first, so that became his first published work. And then Daring Love 1 was published after that, and that's his first professional work, even though it's his second published work. After both of those, he did this, which is his first cover. So a little bit of interesting, if you're a huge Steve Ditko fan and you're trying to get all of his firsts, this is the first cover, but then you also need Daring Love 1 and that Fantastic Fears issue. Both of those are expensive, as is this one. So yeah, I'm happy to have the one. I'm not really trying to pick up the other ones, but I'm a huge pre-code horror fan, so that's why I got this one.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
I thought
awesome.
That is cool. I thought that pre-code was like, oh, I guess that is right, because I thought 53 was pre-code, so that would mean that. So that is 53. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So the Comics Code Authority was enacted in 1955. Well, enacted. It was under pressure by the government. I think everybody knows they had Senate hearings back in the 50s about how especially the crime and horror comics were corrupting America's youth. So they held Senate hearings, and they're really putting pressure on the comic publishers. And in order to prevent actual huge legislation holding them back from doing what they wanted to do, they said, we'll police ourselves. We're putting together this Comic Code Authority. All the publishers are on board with it. We'll police ourselves, and we'll agree not to use words like crime and certain images. And it really became very tame after that for a while. And that was in 1955. So really the best for pre-code horror would be from like 51 right up until the end of 54. And this is February of 54. So this is one of the last best. This series has 17 issues in it. This is number 12. So this is towards the end of the pre-code era.
Hey, DS, were there any comic books that got hit with the pre-code and still continued through the coded period?
All right. So what happened is they basically stringently followed all of their self-enacted guidelines, and it caused a lot of the horror titles to sort of fizzle out. They weren't allowed to do what they were doing. I mean, if you're centered on horror and gruesome violence and decapitation scenes and stuff like that, you can't do it anymore. A lot of them switched titles completely, and that happened a lot in the 50s. Some of them just ended and went away, and some of these publishers just started publishing tamer material. And some of the horror series changed. The title stayed the same, and they switched the theme entirely. It went from like horror to like romance or a more tame version of other themes.
Yeah, like EC went and had a whole new rollout of comics, with more like adventure themes and mystery themes, because as DS said, if they couldn't publish Haunt of Horror without any horror in it.
Right, exactly. So I mean, if you're a pre-code fan, anything prior to 55 is what you're looking for. And for horror, there's really only 7 true years of really good pre-code horror. The first true horror comic book was Eerie #1, and that was 1947, and that was the first full horror themed comic book. So from 47, it really picked up in about 51, and then went through about 54, and that's it. So I mean, pre-code horror, there was a ton of good stuff packed into about 7 years, and that's really my favorite genre. It's expensive, it's hard to find, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, the prices are just off the charts on the pre-code horror.
Well, I'll tell you, this book here that I bought, at the time I bought it was the most I had ever spent on a comic book. And when I won this in the auction, I was literally shaking for like a half hour after I won it, and I still couldn't believe I had it. And it wasn't until it actually arrived and I stared at it for like 2 straight days that I realized I actually owned this. I'd never spent that much on a comic book before, and it all downhill since then.
That's great. That's fabulous. Well, it looks like we got Bueller in the chat over here and Gretzky 9966.
Nice. Looks like we got 9 people watching right now. Y'all hit that thumbs up. Let us know you're here. We got Jean Paul Ace Peter, Seawater 19, Spidey Comic 7, who's trying to get in on the chat but is having some technical difficulties. Paul Milton.
Can we say that
Gretzky
on
99.
YouTube? Oh, he's on. He's on.
Oh, no.
Oh,
faces.
that's a violation.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's showing his face. No, no faces.
Oh, no faces. Turn the camera. Turn the camera. Turn it.
There we go. Oh,
there it is. that happens.
Yeah, so Bub, for the title, the name of this group, I know this is our second one, and I'm really happy with No Faces, and I'll tell you why. It's simple, it's explanatory, and it reminds me of a character from that animated film Spirited Away. If any of you have seen that, No Face, that really creepy character that floats through and really becomes a monster. His name was No Face, if you've seen Spirited Away. So I kind of dig the No Faces, but I'll just throw that out there.
yeah, I like it too. I agree. So simple's the way to go. It's descriptive, and somebody comes on, they know that they're going to see hands. They're not going to see faces. Bub, this is what I wanted to show you. This is one of the very few signed comics that I have. I got this signed in 1988. Yes, I'm an oldster. By Mike Zeck, right down here. You see that?
Oh, wow. I really like his, I guess, is that the Z in Zeck?
Yeah.
Can you get a little closer in on that?
No.
That's amazing.
No.
I've totally forgotten I had this comic because, I don't really put much emphasis on signed comics, and I don't like signatures on the cover. I don't like them being marred. Oh, somebody's not happy.
Yeah.
Somebody's not happy with my explanation here. But I don't like signatures on the cover. I really am a naturalist that way. I like the original, to keep the original integrity of the cover. But I do like it, that little space that's right below the copyright information is picture perfect for signatures.
Yeah,
So
I
that's what
totally
get
agree.
Yeah, that's a nice spot to have it signed.
If I were to take some stuff to a con to get signed, I would have them sign on that splash page on the bottom or on the back cover. I don't know how this tradition happened of everybody getting stuff signed right on the front cover. I think it's, there's plenty of places to sign. That's the last place I would pick.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Unfortunately, I probably am going to still get mine signed that way because I don't know what else to do. Like, what do you? I mean, if I put it on the inside, how do you get it slabbed? Like, if you slab it with the signature on the inside, then you definitely can't. And I don't slab very many books, but for this one, I was going to get slabbed. And then, so what do you do with that?
Well, I mean, if you can get a good spot to sign it, like if you're getting that Tomb of Dracula 1 sign, there's a good spot in the upper left, like between the moon and the figures. That's a good spot to sign. But if you're handing something to Stan Lee, God bless him, it doesn't always pick the best places to sign books. But if it's on the back cover, you can still get it slabbed, and then it'll have a yellow label, and you'll have the book, and then you can flip it around and see the signature. But, it's just personal preference. Nothing wrong with it. I have a couple signed books. I'm not big on signatures, so I'm probably the wrong one to talk to about that anyway.
Yeah, same thing with me. I'm not big on signatures. I don't go out of my way. The only reason I got that Zeck signature was that I wanted to talk to him, and the only way to get to talk to him was to sign a few books. So I put that in front of him, and I said, "Could you do it on the inside?" And he did it.
That's pretty cool.
I think the inside cover is the best way to go.
30 years ago when I got that signed.
Wow.
Yeah, and I really like how Mike Zeck's signature looks. There's a couple signatures I really dig, and his is probably number 2. My favorite looking signature is probably Walt Simonson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't remember who did a video on it. Somebody out there in the YouTube community did a video explaining. I already dug his signature a lot, but apparently his signature is he's designed it to look like a dinosaur, and that's
right.
really,
it's like a
really
remark.
awesome.
That's right.
That's how I sign my name. That's joking. I don't.
So yeah, actually, the only signatures I own are Mike Zeck and Walt Simonson. So there you go.
I have a Stan Lee somewhere, but I don't know where.
I've got my son has I got him a Walt Simonson signed. Guys, help me. What's the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill in Thor?
337.
37.
Right, 337 is signed by Simonson on the cover. And I got him a 338 that's signed by Simonson on the inside, just around the same place that that one is signed by Zeck that Roger showed.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have a 339 signed by Simonson, so we should put those together. We got the full set.
Yeah, my house or yours though.
I have to switch off. I'll loan it to you for a while, and then you can loan it to me for a while.
That'll work. Don, do you get any signatures on your books?
I just got some at the C2E2 that I went to. I got Jenny Prison, Lucia, Jeremy Hahn. I got his signature. Not too many, just kind of current writers, artists. It was just really just cool just to kind of just talk to them. That's kind of all I really wanted to do, was just go up to them and just talk to them. And I bought some art from them and said, hey, you want to sign this as well? But I just really enjoy talking to them.
That's awesome. It is weird sometimes how you can't. I remember, I don't know. It was my first and my worst con experience with, I guess you call them a celebrity or anything like that. And that's why I kind of, I met Ahura from Michelle Nichols. And so it was my first time at a con. I didn't know anything about being to a con, which is funny because since then I watched a bunch of videos about what to do and what not to do at cons. And I did everything you shouldn't do at a con. So so it was like the end of the day. It was like the end of Saturday, and she was almost done, and the line had dissipated to almost nothing. So it was like two people in front of me. So I just walked up. I waited in line, and I got up, and she said, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" I said, "My name," and I said, and she started like looking for what I had to have her to sign. I didn't have anything for her to sign. I was just gonna say hello, like she was somebody I met on the subway or something. So I was like, well, I don't have anything. And she was like, oh, well, would you like to buy this? Or she started showing me like her headshots and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm good. I just wanted to say hi and thank you, for your work. And she looked at me with the hatefulest look you've ever seen.
Oh,
and
wow.
then, like, it was like a cartoon. She folded her arms across her chest, turned her face, and looked away and went, huh. I said,
oh, wow.
I said, thanks.
You should have asked her for her phone number or something.
I know Bueller's in the chat. He got to meet Michelle Nichols, and he did a little chat with her, and she was just the sweetest grandma I never had. But I can tell you, he was hateful.
Wow.
Yeah, Bueller's asking me, how's my knowledge on Archie comics? Bueller, I have no knowledge of Archie comics.
What are you doing?
Of Archie comics is those variants that I've shown from Much Fun, and that's it.
I'm talking to people.
Wow.
Huh? You talking to people?
I like the my wife collects, or I collect for her, the Betty and Veronica, Archie's Girls, Betty and Veronica series. And it stretches somewhere from like the early 50s, actually till today. They revived it recently. And not the series 1, but it's like in volume 3 or 4. So I know a little bit about those early ones, but that's it.
Well, Mr. Gretzky 9966 is in the chat, and he says he has over 1,000 Archie books. So that is an amazing amount. That's more than the total amount of all books I have. So he probably is the authority on that, it looks like.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to have about, 3,000 comics, and I just decided to change my collecting style, and I sold almost everything off and sort of started fresh. I only kept a couple things, and at this point, I have less than 1,000. I've probably just got several hundred I've built back up, but yeah, I'm much happier with my collection now. It's easier to sort of navigate. I'm very OCD anyway, so it's easier to keep track of. It's easier to organize, and I have higher quality books, even though I have far fewer books. So it's just my style's changed over the years. I can't go out and pick up 20, 30 books a week anymore. I can't do it.
We're getting serenaded.
What are we listening to?
That's my daughter's singing "Mommy Shark, Daddy Shark."
I can't hear anything. Anybody there?
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear it now.
Yeah, she's loving singing that song. It's like her new favorite song. So.
Oh man.
She just gave it to me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm talking to some guys." So,
Funny. Oh man. Well, let's get. We had talked about a couple of things. So there, Silver Age Dave had a pretty good video up. Question of the community a couple of days ago. We thought was kind of worth talking about. So he was basically talking about the current comic prices and kind of what the trend, if you will, of comics kind of going away from the LCS and whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Talked about kind of the Walmart DC exclusives. Is that the next wave of it all? DS, you had some interesting comments in his to his video. You want to share some of that?
Sure. I posted a few comments there, and then I think you and me talked privately about it, and I sort of had to just step back and calm down because it's a topic that sort of gets me fired up a little bit. I remember going to LCSs in the 80s when I was younger, and they had the new comic books that were coming out, and they also mostly had back issues and just signed stuff. And it was just it was sort of like an antique store for comics, which at this point spanned the last 80 years or so. Today, it seems like comic shops are almost solely dependent for the most part on all these new issues coming out. And I think it's because the direct edition market has taken over, and there are no newsstands anymore. Everything's in the comic shop, and they are at the mercy of whatever Marvel or DC or Image or IDW are putting out. And I'm glad to see what Silver Age Dave brought up as he was talking about those books he picked up at Walmart. I would love to see Walmart, 7-Eleven, grocery stores start stocking new issue comic books again. Is that going to hurt comic shops? Probably, but I mean, it's better for the collectors. It gets more people into comics. If a comic shop is solely dependent on all these new books coming out, they're really not a comic shop. They're just basically a newspaper stand, and that's what they were in the 80s. You go into a newspaper stand, buy a newspaper, buy some drinks, you can buy some new comics. The comic shops, I remember as a kid going in there, and it was magical. It was, walls full of old classic books and striking covers and back issues. And, I would find a back issue for $15. And I would think that is just the most valuable book ever if my dad would buy it for me. And, now you go into an LCS and it's just, row after row of new books. And, a lot of them have, Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or whatever. And they sell a lot of toys and graphic novels. And it's not the same anymore. And the LCSs are going to have to adapt if we get some newsstand type phenomenon back. But I'm really, really in favor of that, especially since, if you go pick up the new issues with all the variants and everything, the prices on these books, you're spending $50, $60 a week. That's an insane amount. Within a few weeks, you're spending hundreds of dollars on new books because you can't get them on a newsstand. So I'll stop there if anybody else wants to throw in some comments. But yeah, I'm all for it. And I support comic shops, but I really like to see comics being sold other places the way they used to be. I think that's better for everyone.
I generally agree. The only thing is, I think that times have changed to the so much with the digital media nowadays that it seems like it's a chore to have somebody actually read something physically. You know, my daughter and her friends, I've tried to get them into comics, and they're like, "Oh, it's not. I can't read it on my phone." So I think the mentality has changed to such a degree that the people that read comics now are really, it's very much of a niche market. And for Walmart is a good example. I don't see new comics working at Walmart. The market there is very different than the collector mentality that is in a comic book, LCS. And plus, unless they do drastic changes, for example, the ones if you see the ones that I have here that the 4 that they put out, they only have 5 per store. I mean that's maybe they're testing the market in a sense, but that's a very small sample size. And the new stories are very short. I read them in I think 2 to 3 minutes. So you know, unless they make drastic changes, you know, the way to go is to have a reprint line at Walmart and then build up that base there and then go into new comics. But you have to build up that mentality first before you can just sort of throw them in with new comics.
Don, what do you think about it?
I kind of agree, like with both the guys, but like I think it'd be good if Walmart starts carrying like Marvel at first, just because just thinking Marvel is really, they have the highest priced books really that's out there. So you know, maybe it would help cut down their prices too. You know, if like you're going to Walmart, they're going to want to compete, you know, against like the LCSs. So maybe they would cut the prices a little bit. So you're not paying $4.99 per book, maybe go down $3.99 or whatever. Just, it may help with that. But also, but I think too, if like you go to Walmart, you see their conditions of their 3-packs, 4-packs, 5-packs, or those DC 100-page, you know, keys that just came out. Like a lot of times their condition is bent and just bad. So if like a collector really wants, you know, get books in mint condition, they'll go to the LCS, you know, because they're going to get the book in a much better condition than going to Walmart. But it's also if you know, you have this, kids are going to be more in stores like Walmart or GameStop. I heard is supposed to carry some comics as well. You're going to see kids a lot more in Walmart's GameStops than in LCS. You know, they're all over the place. You go anywhere you find Walmart. You know, so you may get more kids involved in collecting. If they see, you know, Spider-Man in the checkout line, you know, they might want to pick it up, and then they get into collecting, and they will find their local LCS to go and find the back issue of Spider-Man and, you know, get into that collecting that we all enjoy going to LCS and just talking to the guys that are there too. So it's definitely a good thing to have it in more places than just LCSs or, you know, like on Amazon's with their digital downloads you can get. So I definitely would like to see Walmart carry more.
And I forgot to mention one thing. These comics that Walmart currently has, they're really not geared toward kids. You know, the stories are, you know, more of an adult nature, like the Justice League with the Wonder Woman story. It's about terrorism and it's about death. I mean, it's not a subject matter that I would want my kid to be reading about necessarily.
Well, and ultimately, the product needs to improve. I mean, I stopped buying new comics a while ago for 2 reasons. One is the price and the expense, and they lost me with the crossovers and the variants, and it just got out of hand, and then the prices. But the other thing is the quality, and maybe I'm showing my age here, but in the 80s, the books that were coming out, like you couldn't wait for that next issue to come out, and they had story arcs that would, you know, cover, you know, an entire year. And it was exciting, and it had heroes and villains. It was simple. The art was fantastic, and the stuff coming out now, it's so convoluted, and it has such adult themes sometimes. It's just I don't know. They've lost me, and maybe it's just because I'm getting old. But you know, I really stopped buying anything new for those reasons. So, you know, I don't know. I think it'd bring more collectors if they have newsstand type phenomenon again. But ultimately, they need to put out a better product. I mean, I sort of keep an eye on the new stuff that comes out, and I think it is subpar for the most part, other than a select number of covers and the artists that are doing that. But the interior stuff, I think it's subpar to everything I've seen in my life.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything on that sense, I totally agree. I mean, I'll show my age. I started in the 70s buying comics. So I remember when exactly what you said. I couldn't wait to get to that newsstand because it was a new adventure and a continuation of an adventure. And the newer ones, I mean, I haven't bought a new comic in 20 years.
Okay, you got me beat. I'm up to probably like a year and a half.
But I did get some from one of my contest winnings from Carl on base 181, and what you said is you hit the target right in the bullseye. I mean, the themes are convoluted, and you need it's a very steep learning curve, to know exactly what is going on in any specific comic. You need tomes of knowledge in order to get where they're going. And to me, that's just poor storytelling.
Well, I think for me, I came to like a revelation, I don't know, about a week ago or so, but it hit me really hard. So I was going through, I read a lot of back issues because I'm trying to complete a run of Wolverine and several other runs. And my collecting style is to be something of a completist. So that means even if the cover's ugly, sometimes you need it to complete the run. Even if the story stinks or the arc's no good, you need it to complete the run. And then I'm also a reader. So as a reader, I'd end up reading some stinkers that I'm still happy to have in my collection because they complete a run. But in any case, I alternate quite a bit between new books, and there's only about maybe 5 or 6 books that I'm current storylines that I'm following, all in theme with other things that I already like. But then I also read a lot of older books as I complete those runs. So I'm going to show this real quick, and just to give you an idea of what happened when I kind of figured this out. So here's Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. And if you know anything about the title of how they came up with, the brain work that came up with the Secret Wars title, was they came up with the 2 names that would attract children the most: Wars and Secret. And they put them together. And that was it. It was Secret Wars, because that's why it's not The Secret War or anything like that. But those 2 words were decided were the 2 most exciting words to kids. So they put them together, and they built the entire comic around appealing to kids. And when you look inside of this, I'm sorry if it's a spoiler for anyone that hasn't read these yet.
30-year spoiler.
30-year spoiler. But and all we're going to be looking at are the advertisements. So here's Moon Patrol. It's an Atari game, right? We'll skip through some of this major action. Here's free Spider-Man comic book presented by Oreo. So we're talking about sugary crap, right? And a little kid there holding a comic book. The imagery is very clear. Here's cereal, right? And that looked good. I mean, this book, here's some more. Can't see it there, but here's some more Atari games. I had all those, so I'm proud of that. Here's some here's a little bit older for comics for a little bit older people, but not much. Power Pack, that was for kids. I got Power Pack number 1 on the way, and if someone gives me a good price, it'll be right back on the way out. It came as a bundle. And my favorite things in the comics when I was a kid, I remember, were always those be your own salesman. You remember those things? I'm sure I have tons of examples of those, but they're like, you're going to join the sales force. Look at this. The Hulk in a diaper.
I mean, like selling
Dungeons
grit,
and Dragons.
Selling that paper grit.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yep.
You would sell stuff, and it was funny. I grew up in New York City, and they were, I had no use for a jet ski, but that's what I wanted. Like, they would show the prizes, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to get a jet ski. That's what I want. I'm going to sell so much. I'm going to be the only jet skier in the Bronx. It was going to be great. Obviously, that didn't work out. But in any case, all those advertisements directly aimed at children, no doubt about it. Now I'm going to open a comic I've not even opened yet. Okay. I have read it. I haven't opened this one yet. I assume it's the same as the other one I read. But I did not choose this comic for any other reason than it was handy and I like it. The cover, anyway, to show. I want you to look at the advertisements. First of all, we're not going to count anything that is an advertisement for its own product. So if they're just selling you another Marvel book, then I don't care. That's not a true advertisement. So we have an ad for a Marvel book, nothing. Then here's more story. Sorry if this is a spoiler. I'll go through it quickly. The point being, okay, there's an advertisement for a TV show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know if you've seen the show, but that's not a children's show.
No.
Maybe it's a teenager or young adult or something like that, but it's certainly not your Saturday morning cartoon fare. Here's more Marvel itself advertisement. Here is more, let's see, mostly advertising their own product.
Yeah, those are in-house ads.
Yeah, all in-house ads. Still, not another. That other thing was packed with advertisements. This, nothing. More in-house ads.
And that's another reason why they're
more
so
in-house
expensive
ads.
too.
Oh yeah, and you're paying 4 times as much for this. More in-house ads. More in-house ads. More in-house ads. It does not stop. Doesn't stop the entire time.
You can think of modern comics as pay TV, cable TV. You're not getting the ads, but you're paying more for the product versus free television, where you're getting perhaps a lesser product, perhaps not, but it's paid through advertising dollars.
But that's just it. That's what DS is saying. So is it a lesser product? The ones that had more advertisements, my estimation, was a superior product.
Oh, I agree. Totally. I agree.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll finally get an exemption on the media mail if they don't contain ads anymore.
Yeah, I can't wait to wait 10 days for that privilege.
Yeah, when I first started selling comics, I would send media mail, and I realized within the first couple how long it took, and then I just started using Priority and First Class, and it's not even that much more expensive. But yeah, I don't know, media mail. People use that for comics. If anybody's watching or watches this on a replay, and if you're going to sell comics or just starting out, do not send anything to your buyers through media mail. It takes forever, and it's not a good idea. Charge a little extra for shipping. People are happy to pay it, and don't use media mail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, C. Woodard noted that. Imagine a child trying to spend $10 on a copy of Spidey 800.
Yep.
I mean, that's a special issue. I understand that, but that's a ridiculous amount for a kid to pay for a comic.
Well, how many variants do they have for ASM 800 also?
I don't know.
23.
I mean, how many people are there in the world? Because it seems like about one for each.
Yeah, I mean, if you add up, suppose you're a completist like Bub is, and you want ASM 800 and all the variants. I mean, how much is that going to cost you? That's going to be like 30 books. Are they all $10 each probably, right? So, I mean, what are you, a couple $100 for one issue? I mean, you can get like a pretty decent grade bronze key for that. I mean, I'm not doing it, man. I'd rather just save up for a couple weeks and buy something for $300.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I'm not there yet, but for me, that's the variants make me upset because they're not even. I don't mind what DC's doing right now with the near virgin variants, the B covers. I have no problem with that. They got a little carried away with the Batman 50 that had something like 13 variants. But for the most part, they keep it to 1 or 2. That doesn't bother me so much because it's obtainable. But the problem is when they have so many variants that are retailer exclusives, limited to 450, 500, purposefully shrinking the print run down to, unattainable. And then, if you're someone like me, doesn't have a real LCS near me that stocks up on those types of things, then you're completely, I'm someone who wants to buy it and can't buy it. And that upsets me as a collector.
I don't like how Marvel does the variants where, like with the Captain America one or Iron Man one, where it's pretty much the same cover, but just it's a different suit or different shield, but it's pretty much almost the exact same pose. It's like, and you're charging $8 or $5 or $10 for all these different covers. It's the same exact thing. That's just crazy.
Yeah, and another thing I'll tell you about variants that starts to annoy me, and if you're collecting variants, it's not a knock on you, it's just my collecting style, but I like variants, but it's gotten out of hand. But they have the trade dress, and then they started doing these virgin variants. It's the same thing without the trade dress. I mean, it's the same cover art even by the same artist. It just doesn't have the title on it, and then it's like a 1 in 50 or something, and then people are buying them up and slabbing them, and then they're throwing 9.8s on eBay, and people are paying $300 for it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know.
Well,
I think they're taking advantage. They're trying to take advantage of a market where people are collecting and are completists and like to follow characters and runs, and they're not doing it to attract younger audiences. They're not doing it to create great art and stories. I think a lot of what they're doing now is just trying to grab dollars from people like us who are collectors and are inclined to pick up things that we think are going to be collectible, or that complete runs or things like that. And I think the art and the story is suffering. I think there's not as many younger collectors out there and younger comic fans. I think there's some damage being done all around by the comic industry, and I'm really hoping it turns around because, I mean, I love comics and I don't buy new ones, but I would love to be able to start buying new ones if I could figure out what the hell's out there that I can buy. Go look, and there's like 57 different variants and 27 crossovers and 14 titles that say X-Men. I mean, that's too much, man. I can't figure it out.
Yeah, the current industry is cannibalizing their own market, essentially. They're eating into the base that they have instead of expanding that base, and that makes no sense. And that's a business model that will fail, and it has historically always failed.
Yeah, and you can't punish your base, and that's what it seems like they're doing. They're saying, okay, if we have comic book collectors and I like to say readers, right? People who are going to get the comic and not just look for a profit in the secondary market, then you're punishing that group by catering to the secondary market with all these variants, because that's really, in my opinion, what it's for. They put out 50 variants because they know that there's someone that's going to buy them all and then flip them and sell them for $50 a piece. Well, fine. But that means the rest of us sometimes, like I remember during the Red Goblin stuff, when that came out and everyone was really excited, I said, you know what? Maybe I'll get into, I haven't read an AMS in forever. I was never a Spider-Man fan, really. But if everyone's excited and everyone's going to be talking about it, maybe I'll read it a little and see if this is an arc that gets me into it. And instead, I went there as naive as I could be, right? I went there on a Wednesday, of course, and said, hey, do you have any of that new Spider-Man book? And I was literally laughed at. They were like, what are you, stupid? You got to pre-order that, and you got to get on here, and we've got guys with pull boxes and wait lists, and we're going to get a few more. We got a guy driving 3 towns away, and he's going to buy every one that they have and bring them back here, but they're going to be double priced when they get here because, we got to get our money back and all this stuff. And I was like, you're kidding, right? I just came to a comic shop that came out today, and I can't read it. And not because someone else is reading it and enjoying it, but because there's people out there that are going to hoard them and then sell them for triple or more the price. And that means that I'll never be able to read this except through digital comics. And I think that's why they're doing what they're doing. They're not just cannibalizing their own industry. They're not just alienating the more classic collector or reader, but they're trying to convert all of those people into digital comics. And I think probably it's not going to be a high conversion rate. So they're just going to seek out the new people who want to read comics, read it on your phone.
Well, and this is why I think a newsstand phenomenon would help, because it would open up millions more spots to have these comics purchased by and shipped to and put on shelves. So you go to your LCS, ASM 800 is not there, or 797 or 8 or whatever the Red Goblin thing was. All right, so then you go to ShopRite or you go to Walmart or you go to 7-Eleven, you'll find it somewhere in town. There'll be more of them out there, and I feel like people are buying them all up so they can flip them, and the people that are buying them from the flippers are the second tier flippers that missed out on the first ones, and they're buying them, and it just gets flipped all the way down until there's just a whole bunch of them out there, and it's passed, and people who really wanted it to read are they're over it at that point. It's like, yeah, I'm moving on to something else, and then it's like, what's the collectible value of that now? Nobody ever even read it, and it never got to anybody's hands to see it.
Yeah, but they're shrinking the market. They're shrinking the reader market. They're shrinking the market that's their bread and butter. That's the amazing the thing about this, that they are essentially biting off the hand that feeds them. And
totally agree with you.
see that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, this is a lot of negativity. Let's go to a positive somewhere.
All right, here we go. Let's go over our mid-year. It's the middle of the year, roughly. Let's go over our want list. What have you crossed off this year, and what's still left? Don, you got a want list you want to share?
Yeah, well, what I wanted this year, I got the first thing I wanted. I wanted to get my first commission, so I got that with the Doctor Who commission, which that's like my holy grail now, But like on my want list I have right now, I want to get that Anne Hughes Wonder Woman 184 cover. I just think that's so cool with the two Wonder Woman on that cover. I just looking for that. Want to get that one day. That's pretty much about it, because otherwise I'm just really collecting Doctor Who back issues for like $1 when I can get them. So that's pretty much my only my hunting I'm doing right now.
Nice. That's not bad at all. Looks like DS has already got a few pie charts for us. Let's check in on him.
You're asking about how our want list is going. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. How's your want list going so far for 2018, and what's left?
All right. So
what I'm showing, and what's left?
What I'm showing here is what's left, and I just picked one of these up in a nice high grade, and I should have it to show next week in a video. So I'll leave you in suspense. I basically had 5 heavy hitter books on my want list. I had these 4, Giant Size X-Men 1, X-Men #1, ASM 300, ASM 129, and a Hulk 181. I picked the Hulk 181 up a couple months ago, and then I just picked up another one off of this list. So making some progress. I'm not the Giant Size X-Men and the X-Men #1. I love those books. I still want to own nice copies of those, but over the first half of the year, I've sort of lost interest in picking them up this year. So I'll probably, unless I run into, a nice pile of change, to pick one up. But otherwise, I'm probably going to ride those over to next year. So I guess that sort of gives it away. It's down to those bottom 2. I picked up one of those. So I'm still, the bottom 2 there is what I'm trying to still get to this year. ASM 129, ASM 300.
Well, I know, DS, that you're not that superstitious, but my guess is that you're not wanting to tell us which one you got because it's not in hand yet, right?
That is true, Bub. It's on the way. It's been shipped, and I can't wait to get it. I didn't get a deal on it. I'll tell you that ahead of time. I didn't get a deal on it, but I paid what I think it was worth, and it was in my target range of what I wanted to spend on it, and I found a really nice copy of it, so I picked it up. So yeah, it's been shipped, and I'm following the tracking obsessively, watching its progress coming from the West Coast. So as soon as it gets here, I'll show you.
Yeah,
I probably reloaded the
USPS.
tracking. I probably reloaded the tracking like 15 times today just to make sure it was on its way.
USPS can make me nervous too. I know how you feel.
Yep.
I tell you, every now and then I'll get a book that comes from FedEx, and they make me the most nervous because they have a habit of leaving a package just on my front doorstep, like open to the world, and it's always overstuffed package and it's just sitting there. And FedEx drives me crazy because I just worry the whole time that they'll say they delivered it and it's not at my house anymore.
Yeah, you can just tell them to leave it at the office and you pick it up.
I don't have one near me. I have to drive an
Oh.
hour and a half when it comes in.
Oh, okay, forget it. I got one 3 minutes away from me, so that's what I did.
Oh, rub it in.
I'll tell you what I do. I
Oh,
work.
how's your? Do you have a want list? As you're not picking up new books, but you could be picking up some old ones, right?
Oh yes, I got a want list, but I have it on my phone and I don't want to mess with it because that's what I'm using. But the only big book that which I'd like to get, which is the one that was stolen from me when I was a wee lad, is Marvel Spotlight 5. I really like to recapture that at some point, but I'm not paying the exorbitant prices that they're being asked for. So I just want to find a low grade or a stealth buy or something.
Nice.
Because I just want to recapture that. But if you look at the comic in front of you here, I'm trying to put together a second and third print Marvel set from the late 80s and early 90s, and I'm only missing about 12 issues or so, and all these covers had a slight variation or tone change. Like this one is like a bronze covered instead of a white. This one is kind of a gold cover. Of course, this is one of the more famous ones right there. So I'm trying to put together that set. But the two there's two really stumbling blocks, and that is that dratted third print Hulk 377, and then of course the second print Spider-Man 361.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the 377 if that was one that you already had or not. Another one is that Batman 423. There's like 3 or 4 prints of that, and they're not easily identifiable sometimes.
Whoa! Yes, that's DC, brother. I don't go there.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't go there. I'm
all right.
to my Marvel.
Not bad. Marvel only.
Yep. I go DC, but only pre-1990. And no, I don't pick up the second prints for that. That's very convoluted. I mean, I leave that up to geniuses like you. There's no way I'm going to go for those.
Well, I only go for first prints of anything ever. So, I don't know.
Well, I only went for this set because it's just an unusual kind of, mini subset that a lot of people really don't realize that Marvel is doing this at this time. And, nowadays they have second printing on the cover, the whole bit. Here you had to do some research to decipher which was a third print, second print. The Silver Surfers had a second and third print, etc. Ren and Stimpy even had a second and a third print.
Metarod, you don't have to explain yourself to DS Comics 9.8 first print snobbery. You just collect what you want to collect.
Oh no! Listen. I love DS. I think he's a great collector. Those issues he shows. I mean, and he collects a lot of stuff I like. Like he has the appearances in Comic Reader and Amazing Heroes. I love that stuff. So he's a kindred spirit, just not when it comes to the high quality of the comics, but when it comes to the way that he looks at comics and other publications. I'm with you, brother, 100%.
Well, I'll tell you, DS Comics has been awful good to me. He's A-okayed me stuff. He's sent me. I had bought some comics from him, and he loaded it down with extra comics. I mean, it's just been a blessing to my collecting for sure. I really enjoyed his friendship. But I can tell you this: I have looked high and low for a way to kind of repay some of that. And every time I go out to shop or even the Peddler's Mall, because I tend to get pretty lucky there sometimes, and every time I go different places, I always keep like a third eye out for something that DS would like. And, when I find it, I want to get it and send it to him, right? And if truth be told, that's how I ended up with Tomb of Dracula. I was actually looking for a Tomb of Dracula and maybe get it signed and send it to him. And I tell you, the hardest thing was that everything that I found, I couldn't find it of the quality that he collects, and not even close. And I know he would, I'm sure, DS, you would appreciate anything, right? But I'm telling you, it's really, really, really hard to find that early stuff, especially the pre-code stuff, in anything other than tatters. And for tatters, you're paying a few $100 just for like trash.
Well,
and
yeah.
then if you get anything that looks nice, it's like, a couple of grand. It's amazing the prices of that stuff. So I salute your collection, DS Comics, and your snobbery included, because it's well earned. Because I know that you had to pay a hefty price to have a collection as curated as yours.
Well, my snobbery, I appreciate that, Bub. Thank you. And I'll say that I never liked that Captain Marvel cutout toy as much until I saw it on your wall, and I was like, damn, I'd like to have that. And I was like, oh yeah, I did, and I gave it to him. But I've had a lot of stuff like that. My snobbery in the modern age, which I consider 1980s and up, I like 9.8s, first print, pristine books. But as the ages go back in the bronze, I slip down to the 8s and the 8.5s. When I get back into silver, when I get the golden age, man, that stuff's hard enough to find. My snobbery completely washes away, and I'll take anything that's complete and looks decent and is attached, which, that's just looking for basically the book as it is without anything missing. So,
that's already a tall order. Complete and attached is already hard to find in golden.
It's a tall order. I mean, this is why I have fewer books than a lot of other people out there, but I work hard to find them. I save up. I spend a lot more per book than a lot of people. I'm not rich, but I don't buy a lot of books like I used to. And for me, just my collecting style, it's much more satisfying to pick up like this book I switched out that I'm showing here. This is another Ditko cover, 6.0. This is a super high grade for this book from 1954. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of books, but the ones I have, I'm really, really super happy with. So I love my collection more than I ever did when I had thousands of issues. I just changed over the years. I just like higher grade investment quality stuff.
And that's what's important, right? That you're happy with your collection. Isn't that the goal of why we do this? To reduce stress and give us some kind of joy and some kind of sense of accomplishment. That's all that matters.
I gotta tell you, Metarog, it does not reduce my stress. When I read when I read a book, it feels great. That's one of the reasons why I still enjoy reading, I think, is because I really enjoy that relaxation part of the hobby. But I can tell you for a fact, I sweat like a you-know-what in church. In every comic shop, mulling over every bin. 2 weeks ago, I near had a panic attack. Of course, it was like 90 degrees outside, but I walked out of a comic shop. I had just dropped $75 and had them hold $75 worth of stuff back for me for when I come back. And and when I walked out, I almost couldn't breathe. And I told my wife, I think it was just like maybe some of the mold that I was been smelling in the shop, because it's a back issue shop. But I was just, I sweat profusely, and I'm nervous, and I'm hoping I do the right thing. And then I get on eBay. Then when I'm home and I'm reading and everything, and I get on eBay and I do the same thing to myself again, sweating, going crazy. Oh, am I going to get it? Am I not going to get it? And then the 2-second sniper is sitting on the hill somewhere to get me. It's horrible. But I do enjoy the hobby, but it does not de-stress me at all.
Well, Bubba, I think you need an intervention, brother. Because you're taking this way. Listen, when we go to work and we have family issues, that's the stress. This is the stress reliever. So you got to take it easy, brother.
Yeah, Bub, I totally get what you're saying, and that is the kind of stress and anxiety I used to have just when I would look at my collection, and that's not how I'm supposed to feel when I look at the stuff that I love. And it was just like, I don't have enough bags and boards for these thousands of books. I need to get new ones. I need to complete this run. I need to, go through dollar bins. I need to get to the LCS on a Wednesday, and I couldn't do it. And it was stressing me out. So what I did was I sold thousands of books off, pared my collection down, and now I absolutely love it. I'll come down. I don't have a comic room, but I've got a little space where I store them, and I'll just come down here and sit at the table and just look through the books I have. And I love it. I know what my next target is, and there'll be, I'll go a month without buying a single book, which is amazingly long time for me, the way I used to be. But I'll go an entire month without buying a book, and then when I do buy one, I'll buy a big book or a 9.8 of something that I need. You know, even if it's $300-$400 book, for me, that's, you know, a planning process to get to that, and it's much more satisfying, and it's much more stress-free for me. I mean, I see people out there buying so many books and completing runs, and it's phenomenal, and I don't have it in me to do that anymore. I can't keep myself together. I go insane, Bob. I lose my mind, like you're saying. I get panic attacks.
I like to know what Don looks like. He doesn't feel any stress.
Right, I don't know. I go in and pick up books that I just like to read. You know, I like to complete like certain runs, but nothing like wild or anything like that. I just like to pick up my Flash and Doctor Who and just some image books at times, and just to read them. You know, because I just like to read the stories, and you know, I put them away and pull them back out a few months later and read them again. I just like to read, so it keeps me nice and calm and relaxed.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I tell you, another one of the hardest people I've ever tried to shop for was you, Don, when you had won my 100 subscriber contest. It was really hard. I had already had a selection of books that I was going to divide amongst the 3 winners based on the videos. You know, everyone who won, I was familiar with their channels. But, you know, most of the comics that you show come from AOKs and contest winnings. Right. So I'm never quite sure if it's what you go out and buy. And I had even, I'm sure you'll recall, Don, we had a little comment exchange on the video that I know what a day in the life of Don the Doctor is. He wakes up in the morning, he walks on his way to his mailbox, he trips over $100 bill, you know, he goes to his mailbox, collects his earnings, and then sits back and waits for the check to come in the mail for his refund. It's like, what the heck's going on with this guy? You know, I don't think he ever gets past his mailbox, and he's got a ton of comics, you know. So when I was looking for you, I said, well, I know he likes Doctor Who. I'll just pick up some Doctor Who comics. Those are really tough to find. It seems like they get snatched up very quickly. I had been to bookstore. I couldn't find them in any comic shops. Then I went to bookstores, and they said, yes, we get them, but they come in, and the same day there's people waiting for them. They buy them, and they're gone. So I don't know if they're low print runs or just the fan base is so strong, but they're kind of hard to pick up.
Yeah, it's a little both, because sometimes like I'm going in and like I'm looking for some back issue I don't have, and you know there's usually nothing there, or you can find a few, but it's just like, wow, yeah, there's very few Doctor Who books that are out there. Sometimes you find like a Books A Million or Half Price Books, and you know it's like, oh wow, cool, but yeah, it's really hard to find them.
Hey, speaking of low stress, we got one of the coolest customers in the chat, Tats Comics.
Yeah.
Oh, the Go-To Geeks are in there, and Comic Bags 22. We got like some all-star lineup here.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I saw Bueller in there a while ago too.
Yeah, he had to leave.
Oh, poor Bueller.
He had to go get some coffee.
Yeah, I told him the other day. I said, you know, I never get tired of watching you let coffee go cold. You see, he'll take a sip of coffee, and he says that you know he gets it from this shop and it's great and everything, and then he never takes another sip. Like, God, it's got to be brutal.
Yeah, that's Bueller. He's unique, shall we say? Yeah. Hi, Tat. Hi, Comic Bags. Hi. I don't know if that's Lawrence from the Go-To Geeks there. And of course, my man C. Woodard, Carson Woodard, is there, still with us.
He's still with us.
Still with us. Is there some kind of prize at the end of the show? Because I mean, the
absolutely, there actually is. There actually is. After the show is over, I'm going to invite everybody to participate in my 250 subscriber contest, which to date has 2 entries. Then we got a crap ton of prizes. So I'm worried about what the shipping rate's going to be, because one of the only entries I have is from Zlata over in Israel. Yeah, Matilda Gothica. So
I'm sure that Don's coming in with his entry soon, and I'm coming in with mine. Don't worry.
Well, I'm not going to win the second prize with Wolverine because I think I only have like one thing of Wolverine up. So.
Well, you know what happened with that was that so the first entry video that I did for support video, whatever, was for Hazel Dan. I forget the numbers, 12, 16 or something like that. And I really enjoyed doing that. And then that's how I kind of got to know the community, because my wife and I would sit and we would watch all the other entry videos to see if mine was better than theirs. Because I didn't know that it was going to be a random drawing. So the whole time I'm like, I don't know. He had a really good video. I think it was better than mine. And of course, my wife, she's super supportive. She's like, no, baby, yours was the best. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, but yours made me cry. I'm like, yeah, but that's because you know me. You know, going through the whole thing. And I realized then, of course, you know, the random drawing, like, okay, we're going to do a random drawing. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So, and then, of course, every video from then on, they're all random. I don't think I've participated in a contest that wasn't random. So I just thought it was nice to have a little portion of this contest to be not so random. That way somebody could feel like they really won. You know, they tried hard and they won. So I figure give 2 prizes away, give 2 prize packages, one random so everyone can participate, and then one, you know, so someone can try and really win it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a cool little dynamic. I mean, a lot of the contests have similar, you know, themes, and yours both have been unique. So I've enjoyed both of them. Here, I'm showing this comic for Tat, who's in the chat, because I know he's either getting or has just gotten one of these beauties here.
Hey. There you go. There's another one.
And yes, Bub, let me just rub it in. It does have the value stamp.
As far as you know, mine does as well.
Well, I think you are an honest guy, so I believe you. And plus, the fact that your stress level is so high, usually if you lie, you would be even more stressed.
Mine does not have the value stamp. My 181 doesn't have the value stamp. My 180 doesn't have the value stamp. And I recently purchased a big collection, and it included all those, really the comics that I had shown in my last video or 2 videos ago or whatever, that had the Tomb of Dracula in it as well. And it was a collection of someone who clearly was picking up Marvel value stamps. So I bought it from, I bought it from the guy who, whoever was selling it there wasn't their collection. It was someone had passed away or whatever, if you can believe whatever they put on eBay. So I didn't know. Nothing spoke about Marvel value stamps. It was a very, very, very poor listing filled with grammatical errors and spelling errors. And it's a miracle I found it, and much less anybody else. So I'm glad they didn't. But what happened was, I didn't know if they were going to have the MVS in them, and I didn't want to alert the seller to be like, hey, do these have Marvel value stamps? Open all of them up and change, you know. I didn't want them monkeying with the listing because I wanted it to stay the way it was. So I just took my chances. So when they came in, of course, I went through every book, and they all had their Marvel value stamps. And my wife, who's always by my side when these things are occurring, probably to check my blood pressure, she says, oh, so that's what one of those looks like. They're usually cut out, you know, like, oh, thanks a lot.
Great. Well, Tat says that he has one with the value stamp, and he just got another one.
Oh, nice.
But his 182 doesn't. Well, my 182 does. I'm just messing with you, Bub. Listen, I picked this up on a very lucky. I think I made a video about it. I picked it up for $1, you know, at a very lucky convention in a mall. You know,
I remember that video. That was a great video and a good story.
Yeah. That was dumb luck. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
All right. So
as I recall, you even offered the guy to take another look at it, right? Because you were concerned that you were kind of like stealing it, or you know.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was just in high school or just out of high school, and I didn't want to get in any trouble because, you know, Miami in the 80s was, you know, trouble city, right? So I said, hey, are you sure that this is okay? And he wouldn't even look at it. He just said, give me the money and get, you know, I was like bothering him, you know. I was like, oh, fine. So I just skedaddled out of there after he got my money. And
Comic Bags 22
when
in
we
the
left,
chat.
when we left,
Oh,
I went out the Burdines and not off the front entrance, just in case.
I was just going to say that Comic Bags 22 just put in the chat, what is the Marvel value stamp? Since I don't have one to show, does anyone want to help him out?
I'll show you some.
Metarog definitely got some.
Oh, I know he's got a bunch. What's funny too is that I just had this conversation Saturday with the owner of my LCS. Of course, I was selling him a bunch of books, so I had to educate him on what a Marvel value stamp was, and it was shocking to me that he did not already know what a Marvel value stamp was. But he's more of a business guy and not really like comics are just something he's selling. It's not necessarily that he's into the comics. He just knows how to sell them. You know what I mean?
This is where the Marvel value stamp should be. Notice it is cut.
Hey, that's mine.
No, that's a Master of Kung Fu.
Oh.
Yeah. So let me get one that has it.
Yeah, so while he's getting that, Comic Bags 22 and anybody else who wants to get some info on this, there was a bunch of books that came out in the 70s that would have the Marvel value stamp in it, and it was a way to encourage people to buy those, cut out the stamps and collect them. And they had like a book you could buy, and you could collect the stamps and paste them into that book and get the complete set of the Marvel value stamps. Lo and behold, many decades later, now it hurts the value because a lot of those were cut out and saved by kids. And some people even collect the booklet that you would save the Marvel value stamps in and paste them in to get the whole set of the Marvel value stamps. And actually an unused one of those, a Marvel value stamp collector's book, unused, goes for quite a bit of money. I think, a few $100 if you can get one of those.
Now, Silver H. Dave has a video showing a full one and a blank one.
Yeah, I think he's got 3 of them.
Another blank one too. He's got 2 blank ones now.
And he got one that's like in mint condition, like it was just from the 70s.
I didn't know he had that many. But yeah, I'm actually working on a project for Marvel value stamp, which I only need a few more comics, and then I will be doing that. I'm actually getting all the comics that had the value stamp in it.
That's a hard collection. I assume you're going to leave them intact?
Oh yes. No, I'm not cutting them out. No.
Well, let me ask a question here.
My is staying with the stamp. Thank you.
What's more collectible, a Marvel value stamp booklet that is unused, or one that is completed with all the stamps pasted in it? What's worth more?
It depends. And I'll tell you my take on it real quick. And I'll let everyone else give their take on it as long as they want. But but my quick take is that as a collector who is, have a little bit of that Funzalo disease, I tend to collect books that don't have the stamp because they're present well. You can get a higher grade cover, a better looking cover. Now, this one does have, I don't know if this one had a stamp or not, but whatever, it's complete. So you can get an incomplete book that's still readable and does not affect, you can get a higher grade cover that presents better without the stamp. However, so for me, I would like to have a book that had all the stamps in it already, because a blank book is not something, if I ever do get a Hulk 181 with the stamp, I'm not going to cut it out. So that means I got to get 2 of those before I'm done collecting those. And that's not going to happen anytime this lifetime. So instead, I like to have one that's complete. That way I can just say, oh, you see where this hole is? Well, reference, page 3 in my Marvel stamp book.
All right, here we have an issue of Fantastic Four 155, no big deal, except that it has my favorite character value stamp right there. All right, so Comic Bags 22, there were 100 of these. And if you and like DS was saying, if you got 100 of those into a stamp book, you actually got some kind of, in a convention, you got some kind of prize, which I never found out what that prize was, by the way.
And every value stamp has like a different Marvel character on it.
Correct. There are 100 different characters. And by the way, Bub, you don't need to cut up your Hulk 181 because that stamp are in other issues.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. And in my video, you will see a complete collection of what issues have what stamps.
Well, there you are, teasing your video again. When are you going to drop it on us?
Well, I'm still missing about 5 or 6 issues. So once I get those, so it might be a couple months, you know.
See, it's things like that I'll live vicariously through you, Metarog, because that's something it'd be cool to own and collect, but I would have too much stress going out and trying to hunt those down and finding all of it that I'll love to see another collector have that and show it off, and I'll get the enjoyment that way. Because if I was doing what I used to do and collect everything I wanted, it's just like an infinite number of things out there. So that's what I love about this community. There's a lot of stuff that I don't have that other people have, and I can watch them show it off, and I sort of am partaking in that. And I feel like anytime I want to see it, I'll watch their video of it and sort of get to enjoy it too.
Yeah, I feel the same. When I see your pre-code horror stuff, which I have very little of, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I had that, you know. So I feel the same way. But it's good. I already have the vast, 95% of them, so it's not a lot of stress to pick up the last. And there's no keys that I need. So.
Well, what happens to me is that I start getting influenced by other people's collecting, and it broadens the things that I start to enjoy. And of course, enjoyment is the gateway drug to collecting.
And then you get all stressed out and panic attacks.
Yeah, it's fueled by jealousy and sweaty panic attacks.
Hey, Metarog, while I've got you here, let me run something by you that I was talking with another YouTuber about. Just because you have a knowledge of all of these just weird little oddities in comics. In Secret Wars #1, there may or may not have been a variant of a color difference between Galactus on that centerfold image. One is maybe a blue and white, and one is purple and blue.
Yes, there is indeed a variant, and I'll show you what the panel you're talking about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was talking to a YouTuber, and I wasn't sure if it existed, but I've got you here, and we're talking about odd stuff, and you're the man to ask.
Now, hold on, guys. Now, it's my understanding, because I was looking into this as well, and the reason I'm looking into it is because, like I said 2 weeks ago, when I had my panic attack, I had him hold on to $75 worth of books, and in there is a blue variant for that. So I know that it exists because I saw it with my own eyes. But the controversy over that variant is whether the other one exists. Because it seems like everyone has a copy of the blue one, and only in reprints and second editions or whatever is the color corrected into purple.
Well, see, that's why I'm not sure. Let's see.
Yeah, that's correct. That as far as I know, all copies of the first print have the blue Galactus. And it's only on the second print, the one that came polybagged, and the further reprints, they corrected that.
So is that technically a second print of Secret Wars 1 that has a different color?
Yes.
Okay, it's not just like a newsstand or it's actually...
I have never seen a first printing with the purple Galactus, but I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've never seen it.
I didn't even know they did a second printing of that issue. I thought it was just all one printing. Okay.
No, they did a polybagged set about a year later, 2 years later, and in that one that had the corrected panel.
So actually, the one in the coloring in the first print, obviously that you showed there, that's an incorrect coloring. So they fixed it, and then the second printing it would be correct. Is that accurate to say?
That's accurate. As far as I know, that's accurate. I'm not saying it doesn't exist because it's hard to prove a negative, but I've never seen it.
Yes, and I would agree with that. I think technically I would probably refer to the first print as a color error or an error printing. And that way it's not a variant in that there was no thought behind its creation. And then I would say the second print is also not a variant. It's just a regular, correct second printing. Well, so to me, I would say that the first print is an error printing, and then everything else is normal.
CBCS actually listed on their label as a variant, the Blue Galactus variant, and they actually put that on their label. So I think there's some confusion out there in the community that's risen even to the level of some of the professional graders when they're labeling these things. So
yes, and I think PGX has it listed as first appearance of Blue Beast. So look out for that.
All right, so let me tell you a project I'm working on. If you guys want to throw in some assistance on this, I like doing little projects, researching little things. Actually, if I can nail down something for sure, I'll send my research off to CGC and see if they will adjust their keynotes for it and put it on the label. And I've actually had success with that. I had some research on the first published Todd McFarlane cover, sent them the research and spoke with them, and they actually changed the keynotes. And then I sent a couple and they get graded. So now I have the first couple that were graded that specifically say first published cover of Todd McFarlane. But what I'm trying to nail down is the first time Superman flew. Just letting you know my new project I'm working on to try to find that out. Sounds easy, but he initially did not have the power to fly. He was faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and could leap a tall building in a single bound. So he could jump really high. He wasn't able to fly. It wasn't an initial ability that Superman had. He gained it at some point later. It's tough to nail down in the comic books where's the first time in a comic book that Superman actually flew. So that's a project I'm working on. If you guys want to throw in some stuff on that, it's interesting and it's not as easy to find out as you might think.
That is interesting. I wonder, what have you come close to so far? What's your findings thus far?
Well, in Superman number 10, there was a new artist named Lee Novak on the book, and he mistakenly, from looking through previous issues, thought that Superman did have the ability to fly from a couple panels he looked at. So he mistakenly drew Superman flying, even though DC officially hadn't given him that ability. He also mistakenly identified the wrong character as being Lex Luthor and drew him as being bald, and that now becomes the first time Lex Luthor is bald, and that was also a mistake. But then after Superman number 10, he wasn't able to fly again. But then they started doing a radio show run by a guy named Fleischer in the early 40s, and they just gave him the ability to fly. And so the comic books sort of followed suit. I think on Action Comics number 65, it's pretty clear that he flew. But
yeah, that's the one I remember. That's the one I remember being as his first flying appearance.
Well, but there's Action Comics number 30 or Superman 30 or Superman 19.
I haven't seen those.
He's actually flying on the cover, and it's pretty clear because it has those white wispy trail lines behind somebody that they draw in comics to show motion, and it's got it coming down. No, they're curved. They're curved. They come out from the side, and he grabs a girl out of a car of gangsters, and the lines curve up. So, I mean, he's clearly not landing. I mean, it's going sideways and then going up, clearly flying on that cover. And then CGC indicates that or the Overstreet Guide indicates that it's Action Comics 123, but that's way after other numerous appearances of obvious flight. So,
listen, guys, I got to get going. My phone's dying on me. So I got to bug out of here.
All right.
All right. So, if you still want me around next week, just send me an invitation. If not, it's all cool.
No, you got it, brother. It was great.
Been real. Thanks,
great
man.
Chat with you guys. Great to have everybody in the chat room. I really appreciate it. I'm very honored to have all these great, knowledgeable people here, and hopefully I will see you next week.
All right. Thanks, man.
See you, man.
Bye, guys.
So this is the comic that I think, DS, that you're talking about, right?
That is the one I'm talking about. I had two of those that I was going to send in. I did the research and got the keynotes changed before I sent them in, and then they both came back at 9.8. But they have that keynote on it now. So yeah, I'm a big McFarlane fan, and I wanted to know what his first published cover was, and I made it official on the CGC label when I sent them in. Yeah, that's it. Infinity 14. Infinity Inc. 14.
Well, what's funny about this is that I said earlier that your channel had influenced my collecting style. So for the first time, I was going through, I found this for $1 in a dollar bin. And for the first time, I was going through that dollar bin, and I saw a comic that I knew nothing about, that I had never really heard of. Like, I've never been a huge DC collector, and Infinity Inc., to me, that's just one of those throwaway, almost like a one-hit wonder kind of comic that nobody probably cared about. But I had just, like, that morning watched a video where you talked about that CBCS, CBCS or CGC?
CGC.
CGC. So you just talked about the CGC change that you had got them to make. And so I picked it up and I bought it, and it was the first book I was going to get slabbed, and I was so excited. And I was like, oh man, you know, watching YouTube actually helped me. This is going to be great. And then I saw that your CGC book didn't sell on eBay, and I really got sad.
Yeah, I was super excited that both of the ones I sent in came back at 9.8s with white pages. So I was going to keep one and sell one, and I put it on eBay, and it didn't get any interest at all. So I ended up putting it in an auction on eBay later, and I only ended up getting like 65 or 75 bucks out of it. But you know, I kept one for myself, and if you're a McFarlane fan, that's just a really cool book to own. It's the first cover he ever did. You know, obviously far from the best cover he ever did, but that's the first one. So
that's awesome. I just thought I'd show that off so everyone knew what book you were talking about.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like it. Yeah, I'm keeping it. I mean, for $1, but I think what's the average cost of a CGC submission? Like if you did a single book, isn't it somewhere like $60?
No, if you send in a modern book, just for grading, you don't do any pressing or fast track or anything like that, it's $18. So, I mean, shipping to them and shipping back, you'll have to pay for, but that gets split among however many books you send in, but it's $18.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, if anything from 1975 and up is $18.
All right. Well, we got it a little over an hour and a half. Don, you got any parting words for us? We'll probably end it off. I think DS's wife comes home and she just bought a new rolling pin today. So
yeah, I'm listening. I got the headphone in one ear and the other ear's open. I'm waiting for her to come in the door.
Nice. Oh man, no, thank you so much for having me on. It's always really cool to hang out with all you guys, and you know, just always enjoy watching everybody's videos and channels and see whatever I get. So it's always an honor to be on with you guys and hang out.
Awesome. Have you ever been on a live show before?
Yeah, with All About Comics with the Comics Cold Ones.
Oh yeah,
that's a fun show. I like that.
That is a fun show. That goes on to the wee hours of the morning.
Oh yeah, I've stayed up very, very late and having some cold ones all night with them.
Good deal. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for being our face removed guest.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it, and you did a great job. Really, thank you a bunch.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Yes, you got any parting words for the community?
No, I'm splitting two. I'll have a video next week with a grail that I picked up off the want list, and that's what I'll leave you with there.
Awesome. All right. Well, my final words to the community is that on my quick want list, my want list for 2018 was the complete Hulk package, the complete Wolverine package. So, and that included Hulk 180, the three what do you call it? Advertisements for 181, which I got those, and Hulk 181. And then I didn't know that I was going to add this to the list, but Hulk 182 has a cameo appearance that completes that run. And then also Hulk 179 has a earlier appearance, or has a mention. It's the first mention of Wolverine. So I just won 179 yesterday. And just like 5 minutes ago, I won 182.
Nice,
so
good job.
That'll be coming in the mail. Yeah, multitasking.
Yeah, right.
So I figured if I could get all 10 people watching this video, they'd neglect their bids on Hulk 182. So yeah. So pick that up, and that pretty much completes my 2018 major want list. And it sets me up perfect for my 2019 want list, which will include Giant Size X-Men #1. So that's where I'm at on that. So that's what I'll leave y'all with.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for hosting this chat. It's been a lot of fun, guys.
No problem. Thanks to everybody in the chat room, in the comment section. Had a good time, and thanks for joining us. And No Faces Chat will be back. May not be next week. We'll probably do these about every 2 weeks or so, if that's good with everybody. give us some time to think about what we're going to think about. All right. Thank you much. Go out there and read a comic, everybody.
All right, see y'all.
Yeah.